Today's show is sponsored by the Bar to Go. The Bar to Go manufactures in the United States heavyweight canvas and leather cases designed to travel well with your favorite cocktail. The foam insert protects 5 50-milliliter bottles. Drink well at the end of your journey by heading over to thebar2go.com. That's the number 2, and utilizing the coupon code ABVN to save 30% off your order. Everyone loves a good mini bar.
This program is also sponsored by Moonshine Still Pro. With 4 sizes of stills available, Moonshine Still Pro has the perfect setup to suit your individual needs. Building your own still? They can help with that too by providing individual components you cannot make yourself without a machine shop. To learn more, head over to moonshinestillpro.com.
Shine on.
Let's drink!
Welcome to the Bourbon Daily, the podcast about everything bourbon delivered to you Monday through Friday every week. Today on the show, we'll be discussing whether or not blending represents the future of the bourbon industry. My name is Miss Becca Sue. Please join me in welcoming my co-host, Steve Akeley, along with our special guests, Jason Bronner, Andrew Webrink, Adam Stump, and Katie Farley.
Hey, gang, what's up?
Hey, guys.
What's happening?
Hey.
I think she got everybody's name right that time. Everybody happy with what she said?
So.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, excellent.
I've been called worse.
I could call you worse next time.
We've got a good crew here.
Oh, in due time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you'll be getting an earful. Yeah, there's no doubt. So, Mr. Webrink, we wanted to check in on you because we've got some crazy things going on. A lot of the crew is out traveling and things like that. You are on the road right now. So tell us a little bit about what you got going on and this business trip you're on right now.
Every now and then, we've got our headquarters in Lebanon, Missouri, and, that's where that we have there. That's where a lot of our experimental barrels come out of. In Kentucky, we make strictly bourbon barrels, char 1 through 4. And, as you know, I'm involved in the experimental side. So do a lot of different toastings, a lot of different types of woods. And, that all comes out of the Missouri cooperage. So I'm, constantly running back and forth between the two. So we are doing some experimental toasts and just going to go over there, supervise that, and then head on back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Missouri is really driving what you guys do. Missouri is certainly the best state. So that's a good thing, right?
First I was traveling to Missouri. Was BW3s we stopped at there?
Yeah, we did. Yes. Tell the story how you used to tell it whenever I'd have you on. When the first time you saw me.
I'm sorry.
Tell the story about the first time we met. You used to always say that I was like I just floated into the room. I transcended a human spirit the first time you and I met.
Well, Steve, you got a good presence anyway. So no, I think the first time we met, I was going to his. Oh, I'm gonna call this guy and just see where he's at, and see if he wants to meet up. And so I pulled over in the BW3s, and I'm just sitting there at the bar, and all of a sudden, like I said, I feel this presence, and then this big guy sits to me, and there he is.
Yes, so that's how we met. Yes, so. Yeah, we've been good buddies ever since. So very cool thing. Yeah, and I've been over to Andrew's house.
Like a bourbon Sasquatch.
It sounds like what?
I said he's kind of like a bourbon Sasquatch.
Caught in the wild.
Maybe I need to change my name. I should be Bourbon Sasquatch. I think that's a thing. Yeah.
That is your Instagram. That is your new Instagram name, right?
I think so too. That's pretty good. The Bourbon Sasquatch.
We've been good buddies. We talk about bourbon.
Very elusive.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, and of course that crew, Bronner, Webrink, we play cards a little bit. So yeah. I love talking about that stuff. Webrink not so much. He shows up, he's shortchanged, he doesn't have enough money. Then he crashes and burns, and then he wants to borrow money, and no one will give him any cash because his credit's not good.
I think he seems like he'd rather watch paint dry.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, on this show, like every other one on the network, we do drink. What is everyone drinking tonight? Jason, we'll start with you because you are back home now, so you're able to drink. What are you drinking there, man?
I've got the Old Forester 1870 original batch.
All right.
It's going in at 90 proof. It's coming with the cork pop.
All right.
And I'm trying to get myself prepared for this.
Okay. Ooh, that was weak. That was not good. More of a clink than a pop, really. Okay. So
I'm going to have to invest in a new microphone.
I think so. Yeah, that was not that impressive. All right, Weebrink. I know you can't because you're still driving. So we had two on the road before, but now it's just Weebrink on the road. So Miss Becca Sue, how about you? What are you drinking there?
Since I still have not left Arizona, I am still drinking Maker's Small Batch.
Michter's
Small Batch. Can't even. It's been so hot. I'm losing my mind.
It changed brands.
Yeah, it got sold apparently. This is breaking news.
Wow.
Thinking.
Yeah.
It's hot here. Delusional.
Boy, not much. That's enough to be the leader, though. So here's the good thing. You are our current leader. Jason was bad. I think he just clinked a wedding ring against his bottle or something to make some sort of noise. So I was not impressed. So while I wasn't impressed with yours there, I think it's better. So I say you're our leader right now. Katie, what do you got there? So far, you're undefeated on this thing.
I'm switched over to the Early Times Ball and Bond,
Okay.
and I'm bowing out of the cork pop because this is a screw cap.
Okay. Maybe she's just, quitting while she's on top. She's doing a smart thing.
I'm hanging up my crown.
I've got the Wilderness Trail bourbon here. Of course, this made a big splash earlier this year when they finally released their bourbon, a bottled and bond offering. So here we go. Cork pop. Ooh, not much there.
Ooh.
Not much there. Now, I will say, I'm going to say Miss Becca Sue. You got me beat.
Hey,
No, it's not over. It's not over. Wait for it. But Adam still gets to play. So
Adam is so excited.
Boy, Adam,
he really wants to win.
I was making a decision between two people that are still in the game. Easy, man. Boy, he was getting ready to head over
today.
Boy, he was getting ready to head over that bridge and give me an ass whipping there, I think. So, yeah. He was going to take on the Bourbon Sasquatch.
You better win now, Adam, after that reaction.
Yeah. Okay, Adam. You're still in this. What do you got here, man?
All right. I am going to hop right over Missouri, and I'm going straight over to Kansas. Going to keep it craft. This is Union Horse Distilling Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Ooh.
Oh.
I think that was enough. Miss Becca Sue, you were close, but I think Adam got you.
Adam won.
Definitely not our best cork pop ever, but that was good enough. Sometimes that's all you got to do. It's just got to be good enough. Well, cheers, gang.
Cheers.
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 All right, what we're going to do next, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about blending. So Andrew, when he saw this one coming in, he's like, this is a topic I want to talk about. I think it's a topic a lot of people want to talk about, so we'll get to that after the break. Now for a bit of bourbon lore brought to you by the Stave and Thief Society, where you can study and deepen your enjoyment of America's native spirit while becoming an executive bourbon steward.
Nearly every still that Kentucky bourbon is made with comes from the same place, Vendome, Copper, and Brass. If you've ever taken a distillery tour, you've almost certainly seen the gleaming handiwork of this family-owned Louisville business that has been supplying the distilling industry for over 100 years. Their skills are so in demand that it's not uncommon for their waiting list to grow to over a year.
And that's just one of the many pieces of bourbon history, trivia, and myth you'll learn on your way to becoming an executive bourbon steward with the Stave and Thief Society. Sign up for a class today at staveandthief.com.
Steve, what's new for the 2019 New Orleans Bourbon Festival?
Renee, the simplest answer is a lot. They've upgraded the hotel hosting the event for one. While all of your favorite bourbon celebrities from years past will be back, they're going to add even more in 2019. It's like once someone attends, they come back every year They tell friends how great it is, and so the list of cool people attending gets even bigger. Tracy's working on all new breakout sessions and amazing hosted dinners. We have a bigger presence there that will include a merch table and a premiere of the documentary we are currently working on. I would say it's safe to say the 2019 New Orleans Bourbon Festival will be the best one yet. Renee, people want to go to this, and I assume that there's no better time to get tickets than right now, especially with some deals that they've got going. So why don't you tell them how to do exactly that?
Tickets are on sale with early bird pricing right now at NewOrleansBourbonFestival.com. The event is set for March 20th to 23rd, 2019 in New Orleans, Louisiana. We'll see you there.
Hello, this is Jeff, Iowa's newest bourbon fan, and you're listening to The Bourbon Daily.
Welcome back to the Bourbon Daily. Today we're talking about blending, and is it bourbon's future?
Yes, obviously, blending is becoming a big thing right now. We're seeing classes where, bourbon fans and that type of thing like to get in and they like to sit in and learn about blending and how do you blend and what's the upside of that? And, how do you create a unique flavor profile by taking different, distilled spirits with different grains and adding them, mixing them together and creating something cool. So very interesting. Obviously on the Beam side, Freddie No, of course, is big into blending. He's come out now with his second offering here just recently. He's got the second edition of Little Book out. Again, a blended product. So it's something that they've certainly jumped on. And my understanding and just talking with different people that Freddie's kind of, loves blending and is really good at it. And it's kind of a passion of his. And, are we going to see this more and more in the future of this business? So let's talk about that today. Obviously, we've got some folks that work for distilleries. Adam, of course, owns his. Katie works for a distillery. They can talk from that perspective. Jason, obviously, you're in the mix too. You drink a lot of this stuff and you talk to a lot of people in the industry. And Weebrink, you're the guy who said you wanted to talk about it. So maybe we're going to turn it over to you first. What's your thoughts on blending?
I think blending's kind of a little bit underrated, maybe underappreciated. I think there's a lot of it that goes on in the bourbon industry, more so than people realize. It's just not something that's really talked about. I mean, obviously, Freddie, I love what he's doing. I think he's got, the right state of mind as far as coming out with new products and just kind of, having the guts to kind of go out there and venture and bring in new things. Obviously, the Maker's Mark Private Select program, that's taken off like a rocket right now. And that's what it is. It's blending.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. And I think with just the core products that you see out there, there is a lot of blending that is involved. Again, it's just not marketed like it is in some of the other categories. But, at Independent Stave, one of the things that we try to focus on, especially during our experiments, this is why we do a lot of the experiments, we love to blend. And we can really create a lot of really neat, good tasting products by, throwing a bunch of different barrels in the mix and then blending those together. From a flavor perspective, by using different barrels and blending them, you can kind of achieve flavors that you can't achieve with just blending a bunch of Char 4 barrels, or you can achieve a lot of different flavors up front. And again, if I had a graph, I can kind of show it all to you. But, we focus on a lot. We build a lot of different blends every single week from our experimental barrels. And again, it's, just kind of an effort to further understand it. It is kind of tricky. But again, I'm a huge believer in it. I think it's awesome. I think it shows a lot of potential. And I think it's something here in the very near future that you're going to start hearing a lot about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we recently had on the leading Canadian whiskey guy. So his name's Davin de Kergamo, I believe is how he pronounces his last name. Amazing person. And he really went into why they like blending on the Canadian side. So they think if it becomes more of a thing where people's tastes gravitate more towards rye, a spicier whiskey, because they blend everything, they actually distill everything separately. They can then, when they're doing the blending, they can, match consumer profiles. He felt like it's a, superior way to make your whiskey. Now, we certainly could argue against that and reasons why we like bourbon, and maybe we haven't been into blending before, but he does make just an interesting point of, that's why they do things the way they do. do in Canada. So it's very interesting now that to see blending catching on certainly a little bit in the States here. Katie, we never would expect you to say anything that would get you in any sort of trouble or anything like that, not share any trade secrets, but, share with what you can in terms of blending from a big company perspective. Brown-Forman, the things that you guys are doing at Woodford specifically.
Sure. Well, no secrets at Woodford Reserve. We're pretty much open books there. But we don't blend per se. So we do the batching. As far as like our personal selection program, it's all batching. All of our product is a batch liquid. So we take the 120, 140 batches to make or barrels to make a batch. But I think it's an interesting category, and I think that it could be something on the rise, especially now with people, becoming master blenders in Canada, Scotland, Ireland. So I think it could be something pretty neat in the future, especially when you have a cooperage and you can kind of create your own barrels and do the char 1, char 2, char 3 and see what the effects are with that. So definitely interesting.
Yeah. Adam, I've been over to your place, and you talk a little bit about blending because you're creating some, here's 100% corn whiskey, or here's a whiskey that we made just with rye. And your idea is that at some point, you're aging all this stuff right now, but at some point you may create some sort of blends and do some different things. So tell us from your perspective, again, different side than Katie here, from a small company, a craft distillery perspective on the future of blending.
Yeah, so we have and always will continue to run our single barrel program, our selected recipes, make that mash, ferment it, distill it, barrel it, let those things go. But we've started and have actually just expanded our base for the blending program. So we grow and use all of our own corn, wheat, barley, and rye. With those 4 grains, we have just the raw grains. We run 3 different yeast strains on each of those, barrel them off individually. And now once we get the malt house going in a couple of months, we're going to do the malted version of each of those grains, lay down 3 different yeast strains individually, let those things age off. And the other 2 variables that we introduce at the moment are barrel char. So anywhere from experimental barrels to a number 1 char, all the way up through a number 4 char, as well as barrel entry proof. We have entered a barrel as low as 90 proof and as high as 125, obviously. So we've played around a lot in between. We're going to be expanding that program a lot in the future, not only to allow us to shift it to consumer demands, because we can build a wheated bourbon, a high rye bourbon, you name it from that stock, a rye whiskey, wheat whiskey, single malt, whatever. That can all come from that same stock. But for me, it's one of those things. It's like, if we would have just had a little more rye in this could have been just a little bit better, and I would rather not have to wait until 4 years to figure that out. So it's kind of an insurance policy as well. So a couple different reasons. And number 1, and probably most importantly, it's really fun to make all those different styles. So love tinkering around with that. And that is going to be a huge part of our portfolio coming up.
Yeah. Jason, what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, you own a company that, one of the most respected bourbon bars in the country. So obviously you're a bourbon guy, but now we're talking about something a little bit different. We're talking about some blends and things like that. Where do you think that this stands in terms of your business? Are customers going to be asking for this type of stuff? Obviously the little book thing, I think, helps create awareness about it for sure, because it's a big company, getting involved, but tell us your take on this.
Sure. I mean, the little book's, been flying off the shelves as far as at our place. People are really interested about it, and we're make sure we're there to educate them about it and tell them all about it. As far as I personally, I mean, I guess I used to be more of a purist, I just love a lot of the single barrels and just a lot of the small batches that companies do now. But I think the future is going to be blending. I think it can really emphasize, and we've kind of toyed around with a few things that you can really emphasize what the flavors you want to really pull out of the bourbon. If you're talking about up front, or a big huge finish, or a heavily rye or a heavily wheated, you can pull all of those factors out, and it's really cool to kind of just play with them and and put them together and see what you come out with.
Yeah, Jason.
Sometimes it becomes a whole different beast.
I think that you hit on a good point too for the bourbon purist. I think that there's a little bit of a negative connotation still with blending, and I think maybe the reason for that is you see the rise and fall and then rise again of Four Roses, and of course, Four Roses, one of the most respected brands after World War II. Even they were still growing and one of the biggest companies out there, and then they tanked, and the reason for that was because it became a blended product, but very different than what we're talking about today. Here's where the bourbon fan needs to get over it. They were blending in neutral spirits and things like that. So it wasn't the products that we're talking about today, even though they fall under that same name, a blended product. The fact that what we're seeing being experimented today is very different than what caused Four Roses to fall down. And of course, Jim Rutledge was able to turn that around working with Al Young. But I think that's the big play here, don't you, Jason? That the blends of today are different than the past.
Yeah, and a lot of people still have a problem with that word blend.
Yeah.
That it kind of connotates not the highest quality, but today's blending is completely different than how they used to blend, like you said, back in the older days when they were putting neutral spirits with it, and it didn't really seem like they were putting the quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think today and moving forward, I think the blending is going to be huge. I think it's going to be really big, and if it's done right, of course, I've participated in, I think this is the third barrel of makers that we've done of their experimental, with those experimental stage, and we've come out with a different recipe every time, and it's fun, it's interesting, and at the end of the day, you can manipulate the kind of the same, you've got 10 stage in there, but you can come out with a different end product, which is really cool, and it's a great selling point for the restaurant too.
Yeah. I think between that makers program and the fact that a lot of distilleries are doing different classes and things like that with their customers along them come in and create their own unique blends and things like that. I know at the Bourbon Affair, there was a couple different opportunities to blend, different products and, see, there was like competitions amongst the groups and things like that. And again, that thing gets, fans interested in that. And I think it just feeds the fact that we are seeing a trend here. So it's something I do think we'll see more of for a lot of different and all good reasons. So, Miss Becca Sue, have you tried that little book yet? Has that been one that you've been able to get?
No, simply not.
All right. Well, we'll need to get you a sample of that and get you on and trying some of that. Obviously, as long as they don't mess with Old Crow, you're happy with that.
Yeah, as long as that recipe stays the same, I don't even care what happens to anything else.
Old Crow.
Keep my Old Crow.
Keep the Old Crow. Yeah. Okay.
Don't mess with it.
I would love to see the demographics of Old Crow versus Miss Becca Sue versus their other typical buyer. Because I would say their other typical buyer is probably someone whose grandfather bought it and then their dad bought it. Now they buy it and they're probably themselves, in their 60s. But
I feel like they don't have very many teeth.
Yeah. I think you're probably right there. But in terms of this, where do we think we'll just have everybody weigh in at blending? Miss Becca Sue will even let you weigh in on here. Where do you think blending's at? You've heard at least this group that's kind of educated about this, talking about that. Where do you think blending is, and do you like it? Where it's going?
I mean, when I first started drinking like whiskey, scotch, and all that, my friend who got me into scotch, he was so opposed to blending of any kind. It was like, well, that's disgusting. I will not drink.
Scotch guys should be into blending, though.
He was not for that at all.
You need to go back to him and tell him he's wrong.
As long as it's good products coming out and it's stuff that we like, I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
Okay. Adam Stumpf, how about you? Where do you think, is this going to be a trend that we see continue to grow? Is it for real? And what are your personal thoughts on it? Do you like it or not?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I definitely, it's in our portfolio's future for sure. I think you're going to see this a bit more in the craft side of things as smaller companies hedge against changing consumer preferences. But, I mean, you can create a product that is, I mean, almost unarguably more complex than something that is out of a single barrel, which obviously single barrel is just beautiful in and of itself. So that's why we're going to continue to do that. But the different dimensions you can add in by blending, other spirits, other recipes, I don't think there's going to be a way to compete against that. So I don't think there's going to be a way that it's not going to become more prevalent as the industry progresses.
All right. And you personally feel good about that or not?
I mean, just like anything else, quality into a program is going to be quality out of a program. So I'm sure people are going to take a bunch of $3 per proof gallon NGS and toss it into a bunch of NGP bourbon, and it's going to be XYZ bourbon produced by XYZ Distilling. So, there's trash in, trash out. Not saying that MGP is trash, of course.
No,
but,
of course. Sure.
I think there's going to be a lot of good things that come out of it too. So, in my opinion, a lot of higher end products are going to come out of that, but you're also going to get a lot of lower end. So, if you average it out, I don't know, maybe it stays the same.
Okay. Katie, how about you? What do you think? Is this a trend we're going to see continue to build? And number two, how do you personally feel about that?
I think I'm really interested in this conversation. I haven't really thought about it too much prior to this, just because it's not something we do personally at the distillery, but we get so many people that are almost obsessed with the single barrel proof that I think it'd be interesting to see this category grow a little bit. It's so unique right now, and I think it is more of on the craft side. So I think there's definitely room in the category for it. So it'd be interesting to see. It's kind of exciting.
Okay. Jason Bronner, how about you, man?
Yeah, Steve, I've always been, like I said, I've been one of those people that Katie was talking about, the single barrel proof, purist. I loved it. But I think this is, after fooling around with doing some experiments myself, I think that if it's done right, as Adam said, that I think we could see this as a huge category growing the bourbon industry. So,
yep. All right.
Yeah, I'm all, but personally, I'm for it. Anything that grows.
Anything that grows, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Webrink, how about you, man?
No, I think, again, I'm a big fan. It sure does make my job a lot more interesting. And like Adam would say, or Adam just said, and I agree completely, it just adds another layer of complexity into the, kind of the product creation category. So I think a lot of cool things can come out of it. I think as long as you have, products like Little Book, programs like Maker's Mark, Private Select, coming about, I think people are going to start catching on, being more curious about it. And I think that's going to drive a lot of the growth. And again, there is a lot of blending that goes on in the bourbon industry right now. And I'm not talking about, again, blending as in mixing neutral grain spirits and that, but I'm talking about, learning the dynamics between blending different types of barrels or different types of yeast strains, all that kind of stuff. So, I think a lot of it's done right now. I think people are becoming more interested. So I think you're going to see a lot more of the research and development departments start putting a little bit more focus into it. And again, hopefully that leads to more products on the shelf that feature, hey, this is how we created this product. It was a blend between, this yeast strain and this type of barrel and this type of wood. Again, so I look forward to it. I think it's awesome.
I do too. I think the creativity is something that is fun. I like it. I like the fact that, we've been wondering what's next. You've been seeing growth and rise. You've been seeing, more barrel finished products. But I think this is a category that is really in its infancy at this point, and it'll be fun to see where we go from here. So I'm excited about it for sure. So good stuff ahead. I don't think there's any downside to it. And I think, there'll be some fun. And again, great way for the craft distilleries, people like Adam, to compete. They can come up with something unique. And, I think it's a cool thing for sure.
I think it's just going to require some education on the part of the distillers, and I think there's going to be some hardcore bourbon guys or hardcore whiskey guys saying that it's cheating, adding all this different kind of stuff in. But I don't know if you've ever got a chance to listen to Freddie explain Little Book and kind of his thought process behind that. But he does a good job of making a case for blending and why there's a need for it. So I think a little bit more education is going to be crucial to kind of getting that off the market as well, or off the rock as well.
Yeah. And I think the true bourbon fans, the people that are really into it, like the people that listen to the show, love education, love learning more, love attending sessions. So it's a great opportunity for the bourbon industry to bring us in as fans and, teach us about this. And I think they'll find us receptive to it and seeking out these products. We want to try them.
One more product that's probably worth mentioning, I think, it kind of gets a little bit of a bad rep just because it has some younger whiskeys in it, is the Whistle Pig Farm Stock.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that their first batch, I can't remember, you'd probably know better than I did. I think it may have had some 1 or 2 year old whiskey in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people kind of at least I heard some negative thoughts. But I thought that was an awesome product, and I thought
No, they're doing some good. And Raj is, they're doing classes up there and stuff like that. I mean, they're really embracing this whole idea of blending. And when you're talking about things education wise, they're kind of at the forefront of that too. So yeah, I can't disagree with you, buddy. All right, let's end this by talking about where we can find everyone. Katie, we'll start with you. Where can people find you?
Sure, you can find me on Instagram at iHeartBourbon.
All right, Mr. Webrink.
Andrew in Kentucky on Instagram. That's Andrew_in_Kentucky.
All right, Adam.
Facebook and Instagram at Stumpy Spirits or stumpyspirits.com.
Excellent. Jason.
I am the Bourbon Redneck on Instagram, and you can find us also under all the social medias of Bourbon Bistro.
All right, excellent. Miss Becca Sue, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Miss Becca Sue, no C's, 1K.
All right, for me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akeley on Instagram or Twitter. Check out my website, steveakeley.com. Coming soon to you, the Bourbon Sasquatch. Hey, while you're online, be sure to head over to abnetwork.com. Everything that we do is out there. All our shows are out there. The Bourbon Zeppelin, everything that we're trying to do, personal appearances, a store. Check it out, abvnetwork.com. Miss Becca Sue, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I'd just like to remind the audience to please give us a 5-star review that includes comments. It really helps us in marketing the show, and your feedback really helps motivate us and give the show direction.
All right, gang. Well, we'll have a brand new show for you guys tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Until then, take care, everybody. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace. Renee, if someone really wanted to learn the ins and outs of bourbon, what would you suggest?
I would say reading books on bourbon is a great start. The programs offered by Moonshine University gives a great education.
Renee, what if someone wanted to get hands-on with their education about bourbon? Tell me about Moonshine Still Pro.
Moonshine Still Pro sells stills designed for home use. Whether you're looking to see how a still actually works, or you simply want to decorate your home bar, Moonshine Still Pro has a still for you. You can find Moonshine Still Pro at www.moonshinestillpro.com. They also have a secret insider site at www.knock3times.com with the number 3, where they often have discount codes and other secret insider content.
Shine on.
The Bourbon Daily is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.